Hello, Hockey World. It's Wednesday, June 26, 2019.
I'm Mike Lagello.
I'm Peter Tessier, who has survived 3 days with Mike Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology. I survived them all.
And I'm Eklund, and I'm the only one of the three of the four of us who wasn't in Vancouver.
And lucky you.
But this is my show. Welcome to HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And we are just it's funny. We're not doing a pre-show, but somebody texted me something. It's very funny. Can you guys name what this is behind me that I'm pointing to right there? That box, there's like a wooden thing there.
Hold on, I need to see it again.
Okay, so I'll go there. There's my. I'm pointing to it.
Yeah, like, I'm gonna say it's some sort of regulator for a band. Like I'm gonna say it's not a mixer, but it's some sort of sound regulator.
Nope.
Yeah, I have no idea.
All right, well, yeah, I'm gonna leave it open for people are gonna have to guess. So I'm not gonna tell you yet. So if you're in the chat room, you can venture a guess. Feel free. But it is kind of a rare, unique instrument actually. So it is a musical instrument in itself.
Is that a Donald Trump bullshit meter?
Where? What are you talking about?
No,
That's gritty.
Same wavelength, Peter.
Nice.
No.
Oh my goodness. All right, well, let's get right into it then.
Can we start since we what the heck?
I got it.
Since we all emanated from Vancouver this weekend, let's start with Vancouver because they seem to be the epicenter of a lot of rumor, a lot of speculation about free agency. I heard something yesterday that I found laughable, and Peter, I have to lead this off with you because the player has played in Winnipeg for a few years, and that's Tyler Myers. There is speculation out of Vancouver that the meeting between Myers and the Canucks went very well, that they're very interested in him, that there is a potential offer, and they can't legally make offers right now, but the range of this offer is 6 years at between $7 to $8 million a year. And if Jim Benning does that, he should be fired on the spot.
Well, yeah, and I'm actually after the Buzzcast, I'm heading over to Myers' house to help his wife pack up.
Oh my goodness.
This is what happens when you spend 2 nights hanging out with Shane Malloy. You get a new renewed aspect for comedy.
I've only spent a couple hours on the phone with Shane Malloy, but I can tell you, yeah.
Shane Malloy thinks I'm hilarious, by the way.
Yeah. Well, there you go. He really amped up my comedy game. So the thing with Myers is if the belief out there in the marketplace is that right-hand D are at such a premium, then Jake Gardner Myers has, I was thinking Gardner because I just saw something on him today too, that Myers has timed this market beautifully. This is the kind of thing that a team that maybe isn't investing in their research and development around players is going to take a bite on for all the wrong reasons. And and I saw the comment from Ray Ferraro on there that when Bufflin went down, Myers was super reliable. I saw Craig Button before the draft say, if you lose Jacob Trouba, then Tyler Myers is an excellent replacement. Excuse me. When Bufflin went down, Myers was given far more responsibility. While Kulikov was still injured in the beginning of the year, he was given far more responsibility. And in those times, he got caved, absolutely caved when he was on the ice. It didn't work well for him. Tyler Myers is not a bad player. The problem with Tyler Myers is that he is not focusing on his strengths. He's a bit lost in who he is as a player and how he's going to be a better player. And I think that's partially in part because Paul Maurice has relied on him to do more and given him a false sense of confidence without the structure on how to do more. And that's where everything's going to go wrong. And yes, Tyler Myers deserves a good payday because he's going to get paid because of the market. And until the market becomes efficient, congrats, Myers. That's awesome. I'm happy for you. I really am. But it doesn't mean a team should do that. Two different discussions.
Well, go ahead, Russ. Then I get something.
Okay. I mean, I would just say it like this. There's been a right-handed D-man shortage for a decade. So I don't think that this market's any different than any other market. I really don't. So if somebody uses that, it's an excuse.
Right.
You've had plenty of time to draft right-handed defensemen in the last decade. You have. There's plenty of them in the draft. You've got to find them. So that's one thing. And there's surely not as many as lefties. I get it. But you can find them. The other thing is he is a good defenseman. He's not as bad as some say. He's not as great as others say. But he's reliable. And he plays. And he's big. And, you know, Vancouver doesn't have many D options.
Right.
They have Quinn Hughes. And they don't have a lot after that, young D-man wise. So,
and can we talk about system for a second? I mean, Russ, tell me about I think that some defensemen do work better in different kinds of systems. And, you know, the Jets system may not have been the system for Tyler Myers. I mean, the Jet, you know, and now that I'm playing a little bit devil's advocate. No one knows Myers better on the panel than Peter because you've seen him play so much. But I'm just wondering if there's anything to that. Like if he put into a different system with a different kind of responsibility, could be as valuable as people are making.
But here's Myers' problem. Is he doesn't make a good first pass. He starts moving the puck up. If he doesn't react really quick, his first pass is terrible. Myers, when it comes to zone entries and stuff, has a horrible track record of that. And he often will stifle a transition game because he can't pass. He gets the puck up to the blue line and all the forwards are standing still because they've been waiting for him to do something with it since he left the goal line. So that's where the problem comes in. And for a guy who's 6'7", he needs to be able to see the ice a little better and see guys. He's a giraffe. He should be making that pass first before he does anything else, and he doesn't.
Russ, I don't know if Benning was in Buffalo as the director of amateur scouting when Myers was drafted, but I thought that was maybe the connection between the two. But I think this is a reflection of, as you said, as everybody said, the right-hand defense being so rare that he's going to get overpaid. He was overpaid on the contract that he got from Buffalo that he's still on. This is the last year of it. After he won the Calder, he's been pretty much overpaid. Because he never really grew into the defenseman that a lot of people thought he was going to be after that Rookie of the Year win. But the market is so barren in terms of defense. You reported it. There was speculation out there about Gardner getting a deal the equivalent of Kevin Hayes, over $7 million. I believe that. I think that's the case. And this is going to have a sort of a residual effect on a guy like Nikita Zaitsev. Mike Johnson from TSN went on Vancouver radio this morning and said, I would rather have 5 years of Zaitsev's at 4.5 than sign Tyler Myers for 6 years at over 7. It's more cost effective.
I'll tell you this, Gardner is not going to get over 7 if they can't insure the contract. There won't be a team in the league that would touch him if they can't insure the contract.
Well, his back is fine now. They say
that's what everybody says, Mike, until you look at the medical.
Well, right. I mean, if they look at the medical, I mean, there's going to be a time period before he goes July 1st that people will be able to inspect the medical. And if they're scared of it, then you're right.
It's not even them. It's not even them being scared of it. They're going to give it to their insurance company. And if the insurance company's scared of it, that will change some teams' minds.
Right. But I think because there is a market that's fairly bereft of top 4 defensemen, and he's a power play quarterback and a skating defenseman, you're going to have a lot of teams interested in Gardner. I think there's literally no chance he is going back to Toronto, even if they do trade Zaitsev before July 1st. Toronto's a little bit of a pickle because, but I think they're going to be able to move Zaitsev. And I don't know if you want to talk about some of the speculation out there about Zaitsev, but
I will get into that.
The rumor that you reported, I think the Leafs would do it. Yeah.
I mean, before I get into Zaitsev, though, I wanted to talk about another player with Myers, just because one other thought I was looking up something. Okay. And a player that kind of occurs to me, and Vancouver fans, this is right up their alley, because this is a player that Vancouver got, a defenseman that the Vancouver Canucks got, who was a big guy who had, shown lots of who was kind of like a one-way player in the beginning of his career. Was just like basically a huge penalty minute getter, but not much offensive upside, and then came to Vancouver and thrived, and that would be Ed Jovanovski, right? So,
oh my God, we're going back to Ed. Okay,
all right, but Ed
Special
Jovanovski is one of the more interesting players, I think, over the last 30 years. It just in turn, and people might think that's crazy for me to say, but he had such different kinds of careers in different places.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
You know, if you remember when he came on to Florida, that was when the Panthers and Flyers had a lot of battles, and Jovanovski and Lindros were just head to head going at it.
And you had that pairing of Jovanovski and Rhett Warner that were sort of
that was that the Panthers did really well with, and went to the Stanley Cup Finals with, and all that stuff. That was a crazy time, and then Jovanovski, after only 4 years in Florida, gets because it gets traded mid fourth year. He gets traded in Florida. To I think it was mid fourth year, wasn't it? No, maybe it was right. Yeah, it was mid fourth year. I'm looking at the stats right there. Mid fourth year, he played 41 games in Florida that year, 31 with Vancouver. So he gets traded mid season. When he goes to Vancouver, he immediately his penalty minutes dropped down quite a bit. He then became more of, still a tough guy, but really rounded out his game and became, I thought, a really solid player for the Canucks for many years. Jovanovski,
I watched a lot of Jovanovski in Vancouver. There were times when he was great, times when he struggled, and I think what eventually caught up with him was
speed.
He couldn't play like he did in that rookie year where he was an 18-year-old wrecking ball through the playoffs that basically couldn't push his team any further than he did. And speed of the game changed a little bit. And even as it came through the clutch and grab, but once you got through that first lockout, he ended up going down to Arizona, I think, and it never caught up with him, right? Arizona paid him big bucks, and
injuries caught up to him too.
Yeah. But speed for sure. Myers doesn't have a speed problem. He has a vision problem.
Yeah. But I'm just saying that defensemen have like crazy long careers, and something that you have to, think about in terms of Myers. He's already had a pretty long career considering, he's a young UFA, but he's
they can morph into different types of defensemen as they go longer in their careers. But the thing
different systems, and that's my question. Is Vancouver's system anywhere different that could help?
We don't know what their system really is. That's the problem. And they're completely changing over their defense. Now, I don't know. So, did they qualify?
Yeah, if you're going to sign Edler for 2 years at $6 million plus,
right?
Why do you need to bring in a Tyler Myers who's 3 years younger for 6 years? Like, it doesn't make any sense. You need to turn this team over a bit. They drafted as part of their strategy, knowing that Podolskin isn't going to be there for Pozdolkin, whatever his name isn't going to be there. Isn't going to be there for 2 years. What is the hurry of bringing in Myers at that price right now? What
Myers
is the
still young? He's still young defensively. Myers is not an old guy.
But you know the reason why, Peter? Because the Aquilinis are nuts. Because they want this team to compete right away. They see Besser, they see Pettersson, they see they're tantalized by the young talent there. They think that they have a summer of complete change, and Benning has openly talked about completely redoing the defense. Well, okay, he's re-signed Edler. He may go after Myers. He may go after.
Hutton didn't get a qualifying offer.
Who did Ben Hutton did or did not?
Did not.
Okay, so he's a free agent. They re-signed. They're probably going to re-sign Stetcher. They may be in on guard. They got all their irons in different fires when it comes to changing over the defense. The question is whether it'll be better or not, and you don't know for sure if it will be.
Well, if you add him, their defense will be better. To say you don't know. Come on. You're adding Tyler Myers. It's going to get better. They don't have a great defense, so the bar is pretty low.
What is the cost of 4 defensemen in the NHL? That's what it comes down to. You need a top 4 defenseman in the NHL.
It's an about $5 million a year. I'd say $20 million.
So it's going to be I think it's more. I think it's more than that.
It's more than that now.
I do. I think the top pairing defense are like $7 million a year. The second pairing defense are about $5 million a year. So let's say about 25. I would say $25 million a year. Is a fair number for your top 4D.
Mm-hmm.
And
cost of 3 Kevin Hayes.
Right. Yeah, we'll call it 3 Kevin Hayes from now on. I know. I saw a yacht the other day was like 1/10 of Kevin Hayes. It was just absolutely beautiful. All right. So there we go. We'll call it that. But
you know who else didn't get a qualifying offer from Vancouver? Derek Pouliot.
Yeah, I know. That was surprising. I mean,
why is that surprising?
I think it's surprising.
Oh, come on.
I think
maybe
it's
surprising. Tell me why it's not.
Because
I mean,
there's
maybe
not a
I'm
lot there for the Canucks, Russ.
But Peter, this is a guy who wasn't even a great skater.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was.
I'm looking at stats right now. People are saying Ben Sherratt might get $3 million. He's not even as good as Pouliot.
Yeah, they're worried about Pouliot's speed. That's what they're worried about.
Pouliot was a former top 10 pick who never grew into the player that people thought he was going to be. He failed in Pittsburgh. He failed in Vancouver, and now he's probably
failed at being what expectations were.
Right.
He didn't fail at hockey.
No.
Those are players you can get on the cheap that these are the ideal depth people that you use in a 5-6 role.
I agree.
And you manage your expectations of them.
But if your expectations 35 goals next year for the Seattle Kraken, we'll be sitting there saying, what the hell happened?
He will not. Here's the thing. For Pittsburgh, who didn't have a great defense, he would average 14, 15 minutes. He was averaging over 17 out of necessity on a bad Vancouver defense.
Right.
So, yes, on a bad defensive team, he could score you 12 to 15 points and play 17 minutes. On a good team, you're not going to want him more than 12 minutes, and he might get you 10 points.
So it's very possible with Vancouver's defense that the only incumbent that'll be back is the re-signed Edler and Quinn Hughes, who played a few games at the end of the year. Maybe they re-signed Stetcher could be as well, but now that they've walked away from Hutton. I believe they're going to trade Chris Tanev because he's got a year left in his contract, and maybe they need to open up space for other players. So you're talking about a complete reshuffle of their blue line, and maybe they'll be better, maybe because they're spending more money there. But that's not a guarantee. Just because you spend more money on something doesn't mean it's better.
No, I mean look at X shirt as an example. But honestly,
excuse me.
What are we talking about now?
Nothing. If you missed the conversation, you'll have to rewind it. Anyhow, when you look at these guys like Pouliot and otherwise,
that was Russ Cohen from Sportsology. Thanks, Russ. Appreciate it. Have a great day. Well, sorry. Continue on. Sorry.
When you look at these players like Hutton and Pouliot, teams want to walk away from them, and other teams are hoping that happens so they could sign them last minute as filler.
Yeah.
And it's not to say they're not decent NHLers, but this is what happens now when the market gets so high that guys like this fall into the pit and they have to accept what they're going to get last minute from teams.
Pouliot's going to be a 1-year signing by somebody for $800,000, and he'll play on the bottom pairing, and that might fit exactly what people expect out of him. And if that's the case, then he's got an NHL career going forward.
Yeah.
But if you're thinking whatever.
Peter, go ahead, please.
My thinking here is I think it speaks to Mike what exactly is Vancouver doing, right? Like the direction. What is their system? What is their? Because you would think that signing maybe they don't want to qualify him, they can re-sign him later, which I think is what the Jets are trying to do with Beaulieu. But it's
this is the thing.
Are you getting maybe $5.5 to $6 million more value out of Tyler Myers signing at that rate than you are what that Derek Pouliot is? I don't know.
No, but
right, and that's the thing.
That's the point.
Tyler Myers is going to play 24 minutes some nights.
Yeah.
You don't want.
Oh, God help them.
Play 24 minutes.
I don't know. I think we're gonna have to.
That's scary.
I think time will tell with Tyler Myers, but I think that
it might be scary to you, but it's an upgrade for them.
Yeah, and we're being a little bit tough on the guy.
I am being tough on Myers because I think Tyler Myers has a role. It's that 4 or 5 guy,
right?
Unless something miraculous happens with his game and his offseason that changes who he is at age 29. And I'm not betting on that. That's all it is.
Nobody has been a bigger critic of Jake Gardiner in Toronto than I have over the years. But based on the market, he's going to get $6.5 to $7 million on a long-term contract. It's going to happen because of, he's a top 4 defenseman. I don't think he's a particularly good one, but offensively carrying the puck, quarterbacking the power play, he's going to get that kind of offer. He's going to be missed
in Toronto. I mean, there's no
he will not be back in Toronto if that's
no, he won't be back, but he will be missed. Like I'm just
saying that. Yes and no. The good parts of his game, they'll miss. The bad parts of his game, they won't. And I think a guy like
we have to decide who it all depends what they do to replace him, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you can't just lose him and lose Zaitsev and be good. I mean, that they're not going to be.
I'm right about that.
It depends on what you get in a deal for Zaitsev, and it depends on whether Travis Dermott can grow into that top 4 role. Now he's going to be out for a couple months. I think Travis Dermott's a better overall defenseman than Jake Gardiner is. I do.
He's never going to get the point level that he gets.
No, he's not. But Russ, I'll give up 10 to 12 points for being more competent defensively because Jake Gardiner at times has been incompetent.
No, he has at a very inopportune times, as has well been documented. But the idea is over the course of a year, over the course of making the playoffs, which is actually going to be an issue for Toronto next year because that division is getting better. They have to make sure that they can, and everybody in the East. I think the East is going to be crazy hard to make the playoffs next year. I'm just flat out.
And I think Kyle Dubas is aware of that, and that's why I think one of the reasons why on Saturday he indicated that the what's going on with Marner is holding up potential other deals because he doesn't want to lock up cap space when he may need the flexibility when it comes to Marner. He needs to get, even if he pays a little more than he'd like to, he needs to get Marner settled completely and not have his agent sort of floating trial balloons out there through the media and get a deal done so he can make the other moves. Otherwise, he's going to be in limbo until Marner signs the deal.
Yeah. And what's interesting is there are teams out there. Go ahead, Russ.
No, I say he's going to be in some limbo. He is. And you're not going to be able to sign like a big free agent defenseman. There are none out there anyhow.
Right.
But he's not going to be able to take on a big trade contract without having that deal with Marner locked up. It is going to hamper them.
Right.
He is benchmarking a certain amount of salary to do this. Like that's what it is. And if the salary range, because remember, Marner has to get someone to offer sheet him too.
Yeah.
Right.
And that won't happen.
And that won't happen. So Dubas is sitting there going, I know I'm going to be paying Mitch Marner anywhere from, let's just use our random numbers, $9 to $11 million. Okay. Right. Yes, $2 million can be a significant swing in what you can do, but he's basically taken that space out of his spending budget. That's all it is.
It's not. It's not that simple because it sounds like it's that simple, but it's not, because if he takes $9.5 million out of his budget and Marner's people say, hey, it's $10.5 million or we're holding out, then now he
knows that now already. Like he knows that situation. So
no, I think
if Kyle Dubas does not know what Mitch Marner's camp wants for salary right now, he should not be operating an NHL club.
But Peter, he has to stay flexible for more than just that $11 million on the off chance that some other general manager wants to put Toronto in a pickle and sign the offer. I mean, it's
which won't happen. If some other general manager offers more than $11 million and wants to give up 4 firsts, Kyle Dubas is going to take those firsts and he's going to laugh all the way. That's what's going to happen.
Won't be laughing.
There are maybe 2 teams who will consider doing that. Consider.
Well,
look, you got Mike to
and not when they're about to go into a lockout, into a season where there's going to be another lockout and an arbitration thing. Does it make sense for any GM to go after another one's player in an obscene level, like Paul Holmgren did with Shea Weber?
Now, if you have a general manager who offers your best player a $6 million offer for 8 years, then you deserve to get offer sheeted, like Sebastian Aho was apparently offered by Carolina.
I'm not sure I buy that offer.
Well, I mean, that's what's out there.
No, I know. No, listen. I mean, Kiprio's put it out there. I heard it too, so it's definitely it was in the rumor mill. But let me just clarify that for a little bit. And some of the Carolina stuff. There are some mean people out there who do not like Dundon, and they are throwing stuff. There's some stuff being thrown around. They're like, every once in a while, I find a source that I will never talk to again.
Right.
I found a source that I will never talk to again in that Sebastian Ahu offer in Carolina. Okay, so it's rare. Like, there's like 4 of them in my entire career. Okay,
we have a signing, and you'll get a kick out of this one. Stephen Wino has just reported that the Flyers have re-upped Brian Elliott for 1 year, $2 million.
Anthony jumps on.
$2 million.
Anthony, we got a live report. Anthony, what's up, man?
Hold on.
Anthony, tell us what's going on.
It's according to Matt Lee. Yeah, we have a fly. Yeah, the Flyers have signed Brian Elliott to a 1 year, $2 million contract. He is the Flyers' backup.
I want to give a couple people credit here. I heard Russ say this on the radio yesterday. All right, on XM, that he thought that Brian Elliott was probably going to come back, which was
not for $2 million. That's crazy.
Flyers.
I honestly think that it's well, the Flyers keep their streak going of not going more than 1 or 2 days without doing something ridiculously nuts, but that's okay. And I mean, listen, in Philadelphia, like Flyers fans, after going through so many years of Hextall, like it's such the whiplash between like, okay, what happened before Hextall, which is a lot more like this, and then what happened with Hextall, which was absolutely nothing at all, back to this again. The whiplash is pretty insane.
I have to say that the most pointless trade of the trade deadline was the Stolars for Cam Talbot deal, because now Cam Talbot, there's no way Cam Talbot.
No, because you have to go in perspective. What was happening? You have to, Mike. Listen, I know, like Stolars, they were never going to bring back. Okay?
I know, but
at that time, the world was totally collapsing around the Flyers, and it felt like Elliott would never be able to play again. It felt like Hart would never be able to. They literally had to make that trade. There were no options.
Can we talk about the return from the Wayne Simmons deal now?
Yeah, Tyler Pitlick.
Basically.
Yeah.
No, I mean, listen.
Tyler Pitlick and a 4th round pick in next year's draft.
Right.
I will stand by the fact that I believe last year they should have just let Wayne Simmons ride it out, because the offers were terrible. They were not good, and the vibe that he had, and at least him being able to be around some of the younger players in the locker room, and the Flyers showing those players in the locker room that they could have made like a statement. They could have been like, "We believe in you. We think this is," because everything was. If you remember that, they had a moment there where they could have gotten more out of that than what they were going to get in a trade.
Well, this is what I'm puzzled at, because that deal that happened yesterday. You have a guy who was a 1st round pick, although 30th overall, of the Chicago Blackhawks, who scored 19 goals 2 years ago. He was traded for Wayne Simmons. He was traded at the deadline to Nashville. He was then traded to Philadelphia at the deadline the next year for Wayne Simmons. Then he was traded for Tyler Pitlick, and then he was not qualified. So at the age of 24 years old, Ryan Hartman is an unrestricted free agent.
Now, we do have the report, obviously, from Sean Shapiro from The Athletic in Dallas, along with Pierre LeBrun, which obviously backs him up, saying that Dallas is still in play. It says just whatever the arbitrator number was going to be was too high for the qualifying offer. That's basically what happened. So Dallas is still apparently very much on board on trying to bring Hartman in. So but it's going to be probably, it's going to be more expensive in this case. You're probably looking at, I'm guessing at this point, probably around a little under, anywhere under or above $2 million, Russ, right? Would you say?
Yeah. No, I definitely would say. I want to go back to one thing, Ant, since you're clocked in now fully. Did you ever get the feeling anybody else wanted Brian Elliott? That's why I'm shocked at the price. I didn't get that feeling.
Not exactly. No, I didn't get a bearing or feeling that Elliott, that there was going to be anybody. I mean, there's always a chance, obviously, when we're in the free agency that maybe they did get some feelers out. And now we go back and look at the end of the season, the fact that they used him as much as they did.
Yeah, but Christian
went to the guy who already had the job already.
But here is the thing, and here's what happened. If you remember, it is so for those who you had to really be with the Flyers every day to follow what the hell was happening, because
you did. It's true.
If you were looking at it from the outside, you were absolutely like this, and it was crazy even from the inside. But from the outside, it made no sense at all. But from the inside, you could at least understand where it was coming from slightly, right? Because Elliott if you remember when Elliott got put back into a game, was during the the big moment for Elliott was the friggin' outdoor game against the Penguins.
Yeah.
All right. Because remember, we sit there and everybody expects Carter Hart's going to play. And at the last minute, we're in a press conference. I'm sitting right next to Russ when this happens. Yeah. Remember? And it's like, and they say Moose is going to be our goalie tomorrow in the outdoor game, which was just.
When did they say Johan Hedberg?
Moose is Elliott's nickname. So, but which was completely like, we first of all, no one knew that Carter Hart was hurt. Secondly, everyone assumed if Carter Hart wasn't playing, it would be Talbot. Right. So here they went right to Elliott again, and Elliott played pretty bad in the beginning of that game and pretty amazing at the end of it.
Yeah,
pretty amazing. And it was the straight. So Elliott at the end of that game.
We had the like top fly goal that goes off his glove and just trickles in off his rear end, and you figure that's over at that point.
We all thought I remember one of my favorite lines from Scoop Cooper, who's in the Flyers press box, is like, "That's a play that ends men's career." You know,
right. Like that. Ask Tommy.
Not here.
Well, okay, let me just say that
Elliott came back in that rest of that game. Remember, the Flyers come back, they win it in overtime, and Elliott made some unbelievable saves in incredibly horrible conditions.
Yeah.
I think I think what he showed there, and he sort of earned his way back into like the other guy, and they couldn't take it away from him.
But as we know from his stints in St. Louis and his stints in Calgary, at the top end, he's a great goaltender. When he's hot, he's a great goaltender who can play games on end. When he's bad, which is more often than not, he's a sieve. So I mean, I don't get maybe he's suited as a backup, but $2 million is a little pricey in my estimation. And oh, by the way, I just looked it up. Ryan Hartman's contract was $875,000. So a qualifying offer would have been less than around $950,000.
Yeah, but there were other issues there.
A couple million.
Right. If you set that figure at where he wanted, which is $2 million, and in all likelihood somewhere around there, Russ, right? Probably around that number.
Yeah.
That's not going to work. So if his strategy was to ultimately play this the right way, you get to the point where he's not qualified, he becomes a UFA, he probably will get that contract.
Right.
Somewhere else.
Right.
So for everybody, I think, who's been like making fun of the fact that he's been away, the tweet from the fact that everybody's having a good time with.
They can't get in touch with him.
For a fact his agent's on the horn with him, telling him exactly what's going on. If he's
or if he's not, it's just Ryan Hartman. Like, you can see Ryan Hartman very much saying, like, I don't want to sit around here and wait and figure out what the hell's going to happen. Just he went to his agent and said, just tell me what happens next week when I get back.
Right. Yeah. I think you're right. I want to put Cam Talbot's career with the Flyers now in perspective. Jason Muzzatti played more minutes for the Rangers than Cam.
He got a Muzzatti reference
for the Flyers. Well, I have two Paisans on the panel.
I think I may have played more minutes for the Flyers as a goalie.
Don't clap. Let me ask Peter something.
Having played in one alumni game, don't I qualify as having played more minutes?
You're close.
You're close.
All right. So, but here's the other thing that we're forgetting about here. It's very possible that Talbot told him to go screw themselves. It's very possible that Talbot said
playing all the last month of the season after they trade for him.
Right. Yeah. But the weird thing was about that, Mike, was the word around the press box and stuff like that was they had talked to Talbot about this. It's okay. You'll be back next year. Elliott's gone. You're Carter Hart's mentor or whatever. You're going to be fine. But it's very possible that Talbot just didn't buy any of it, said forget about it, and got an offer from Calgary. And that's my prediction. That's where he goes, because I heard Calgary really had Calgary had very big interest in Brian in Cam Talbot going there and possibly being like the 1A starter, the dual starter type situation.
I still think the Islanders might call on Talbot, but I will say this.
Yeah.
I think even Cam Talbot was waiting a little while to see about these starter jobs.
Yeah.
He probably would want more than $2 million, and the Flyers can't afford that.
Right.
Peter, let me ask you something, because we've seen over the last few days now, a couple of the deals are not confirmed yet, but I think the Kapanen deal and the Janssen deal with the Leafs are being held up because they're keeping their cap amount flexible for Marner. They haven't announced. If they announce them, then they're locked in on the cap, and they're not going to do that right now. But the Sanheim deal for 2 years, at I think it was 3.25. You're starting to see some of the players who you thought were going to get long-term deals or even get offer sheeted, these middle-of-the-road free agents, signing deals with Winnipeg. How does that affect Laine, who there's a lot of indication he might take a bridge, or Connor in terms of bridge?
I think the speculation right now, and I think Elliot Friedman talked about this in his 31 Thoughts today too, is that Laine is likely to be bridged because he and his agent will decide that it's better for him to do what Connor Hellebuck did and bet on himself, work the stink in his offseason, come back and score a bucket load of goals, because
it puts the pressure.
Goals are what drive salary. You score goals, you're going to drive salary. And that's what he does best. So it's better for him to work on his flaws in his game, which there are a few, try to be a better all-around player to get particularly more even strength goals, right? Like that's the big thing, is not be a power play specialist, and he's got to change a little bit in that. And then the vault opens up. If you're the Jets, you probably like this because it does one of two things. It also allows you some time to figure out some other cap things, where Matthew Perreault will be off his deal, Kulikov will be gone, and then you've already given Josh Morrissey his next deal if it's a 2-year bridge. So it helps the Jets, but it's a risk for them too.
Yeah.
Now, can we talk about the Zaitsev?
Let's go to Zaitsev for a second. Yeah, for sure. Oh, the last thing I'll say about the Elliott thing, I just got a text too. Remember that Carter Hart's on entry-level contracts, so this is like they're spending not even $3 million or whatever, cap space for their goalies. So this is
right. Much that's money that could be spent.
Yeah, I think that you think
now that we understand we overpaid for our backup, but we're not paying much for our starter. That doesn't make it right.
Right. No, but at the same time, when your starter is a 21-year-old.
I get it. Bring Brian Elliott in. You could have waited 6 weeks to sign Brian Elliott at a lesser rate.
Right, get him for $850,000 instead of $2 million.
Possibly,
maybe not.
I mean, that's you just don't know. I mean, you really don't. I mean, Elliott is a good guy and has made a lot of friends.
I might give it to you.
No, but he's like one of those guys who he's only here he's here a lot in a large part because of such the good guy he is. I mean, to be honest, let's just say that he's like, they can trust him. They know he's a good he's a locker room guy. They know they can play Carter Hart and he's not going to complain about. There's a lot of things that they don't have to worry about with Elliott. And that's,
hey, I'm a great guy. I should be paid $3 million.
Well, yeah, we'll see. But yeah, you know what I'm saying.
We don't want to push it, Mike.
So Philadelphia now, just so we have our idea real quick of Philadelphia situation now, they're at $15.1 million in cap space with now 19 players signed.
And they haven't signed Provorov. And Russ, I think this is playing out like
exactly right.
Yeah, they are limiting their amount of cap space to go to Provorov and to go to Konechny and say, okay, we can't afford to sign you long term, so how about we sign a 2-year bridge? I think
that may be true on Konechny. I don't necessarily.
Yeah, they're different.
Okay.
They're different.
I think one of those guys they're going to come away with. It's going to be probably Provorov in this case. They have to at least have one of those defensemen where they basically have they are committed to them financially too. In terms of you've already got a 2-year deal at a very relatively affordable rate with Sanheim. Some of that money's got to get outlaid to the other defense because you want to have that before when you got to deal with when you have to deal with.
And here's the bigger picture on that, Anthony, and Mike. This is the bigger picture on that, and this goes to my blog today, which is that we have not seen any of the RFAs budge. Okay, so we have seen clearly put we are in a old fashioned standoff. Okay, we have Marner, Point, Laine, just
McAvoy,
go down the line.
Rantanen.
All the forwards, right? Rantanen, and then go to defense. McAvoy, Werenski, and Provorov. None of those guys have budged at all because no one wants to set the number. And the issue with that is that none of the GMs, and this is why I wrote today that we're going to see holdouts. I have no question in my mind, because when I talk to the GMs and I talk to the agents are all like, yeah, they're going to realize soon that like they're not going to get more than $9 million tops for any of those players. All right. And the agents are saying, yeah, we got to get 11. The agents have been like slowly putting $11 million out, in like subliminal advertising for the last 3 years, $11 million. But the GMs are like, no, they're like $8 or $9 million players. No, they're $10 or $11 million players. There's this gap of $2 million between everybody, and the agents being like, oh, we're gonna get that, and the GMs being like, you're insane if you're gonna get that. All we have to do, you can't go anywhere. You can hold out if you want to, but you can't go anywhere. You don't have the power to ask for $11 million, Mitch Marner. So no one's gonna offer sheet you. No one's gonna do. And that sounds rough, but that's literally where I talked to an agent the other day who was involved with one of these, say, 8 guys I just mentioned, and he's like, what power does he have? And this is a good player, because we heard the list. But he said, what power does he really have? Like, and the problem, he can hold out. Sure, if he wants to hold out, fine, he'll hold out.
The problem is that the agents, and I'll use Darren Ferris, who's the agent for Marner, as an example. He is funneling out information to different insiders about, a offer sheet is coming and it's going to start.
The GMs all know that that's BS. The GMs are way beyond that.
That's for public consumption, and I think the general manager.
He doesn't need an offer sheet to come. He just needs the public to put pressure on Dubas to pay the man.
And that's all he's doing. And believe me, anything involving Marner, you should just ignore. Like everything out there, especially Marner, because of the Toronto situation, that should just be ignored. Like,
listen, think about it this way. You want, like, I totally believe what you're saying here, and I agree with it, in that these guys are sitting back, not nervous isn't the right word. They're being cautious about coming out and signing a guy, setting a market amount.
Yep.
But the last thing you want to do is have the market set your amount.
Right.
You don't want to be a victim of that. This is business.
You're right, Peter, and this is where the arrogance comes into play.
And I'll tell you one contract, the one thing that people forget happened that absolutely screwed the Oilers was when they waited on Draisaitl and Poyle signed Johansson for $8 million. Yeah. Well, next thing you know, Draisaitl's got 9.5 because he's way better than Johansson, and they waited. You don't want someone else setting your market for you.
Right. I will say this. I mean, I saw the Flyers cap writing on the wall a couple weeks ago, but Provorov was never going to sign before any of the other guys signed. The agent wasn't going to allow it. The Flyers have been helpless with this since Hextall was in there.
It was off the record, but Hextall was so pissed at the agent for Provorov for the last year it was insane. Like, the thought was, I was hearing we were all hearing a year ago. I'm sure all of us who were in that press box or whatever, hearing a year ago that this was just never going to get done with Hextall. That Hextall and Provorov, and there was real reason to believe that if Hextall stayed, Provorov was never going to be a Flyer after this year.
Right.
And people were like freaking out about it, but that's honestly the truth, because Hexy was like enough. Because what is happening is there is the arrogance of both sides, and is intense right now. Like, they're both no one's trying to work with the other. The NHLPA, of course, is forcing these guys to stand tight, not sign a cheap deal, right?
Right.
Well, by the way, the Sanheim deal, the NHLPA hated it.
Yeah. And on these RFAs, I'll tell you the player that other agents do not want to be the first one to sign, and that's Braden Point, because Braden Point will take less than people expect because of the Florida tax thing. He will not be a $9 million, $9.5 million.
He might be the best of all of them, and that's what other people. And you're right, Mike. So that's why, and that is the issue. I honestly think the first one to sign will be Mikko Rantanen. And the reason I say that, from just talking to different people involved, first of all, Colorado only has like 4 forwards signed. Like,
Colorado has $38 million in cap space, and
they've got 4 forwards signed. And it's just insanity. So they can't do anything until they figure out what they're going to do with Rantanen. Sakic is very good at talking to players, and Sakic will get Rantanen aside and be like, listen, this is the deal. I remember when it was me and Sundin and Quebec and all this, and he'll throw all this stuff back at him. and he'll get it done. Like Zach will get it done for probably around $8 million a year.
So the Penguins have some signings here. Zach Trotman, Kevin Krusman, 2-year deals, both about $700,000. Like that's what teams rush to get these guys in now when they know they're close to being capped out and they can play some fill-in minutes. And that's why you got to be careful of overpaying some guys, because there's teams that are good that will fit in guys like this all the time.
I will tell you what, it's not teams rushing, it's players agents rushing, because that's what's happening with these guys you're looking at there. Every one of those guys is looking at like, oh my God,
right. Those guys are in their mid-20s and they're saying, okay, can I get a 1-year deal for a couple years?
Get a contract. Yeah.
Now
they're calling their agents up and saying, just get it done today. I don't care if it's $700,000, whatever.
Now Zaitsev.
Zaitsev. Yeah, like there is a rumor out there that a deal is imminent for Zaitsev, and I talked to, again, like I said, you guys will know by now that my rule in Toronto rumors is it cannot come from Toronto. So it's not coming because coming from Toronto is pointless and there's so much spin involved. So this is coming from other places. But so this is and that there is a rumor that the two teams I have heard the most are the LA Kings and the Edmonton Oilers. And I think that they are both willing to give, they're willing to take the most amount of cap space and yet give Toronto back something that is at least serviceable, but not something that is enough. From what I wasn't getting names, of course, from the other teams, but I would ask things like, is this going to be enough for Toronto to replace Zaitsev because his minutes on defense?
The speculation out there, because what Dubas is looking for Zaitsev is a defenseman in return. And when it comes to Edmonton, I mentioned Darnell Nurse because of his Sault Ste. Marie connections, but that's probably not going to happen because he's such a good defenseman. The name out there has been Adam Larsson, and that makes sense because of the stigma that Adam Larsson has from being the guy that they traded Taylor Hall for. We know that there's a connection between Connor Brown and the Edmonton Oilers based on him playing with McDavid and Erie. And the Puljujarvi situation with the Oilers, him basically needing to trade him, otherwise he's going to Europe. I mean, I think there's the makings of a deal there, and if that's that 2 for 2 is sort of the structure, I think Toronto would do it because they would save money on Puljujarvi still being on his ELC and probably re-upping for around close to what that is, because he's now still getting healthy from double hip surgery, and Larson gives him a right-hand shot defenseman to replace Zaitsev. So I think that would work, but I don't know for sure if that's a legitimate rumor or if that's just.
I haven't heard Puljujarvi's name mentioned with them, and the only reason I say that I think that's a little bit doubtful is Puljujarvi is a bit of not a head case, but is definitely culturally challenged, and they want to get him in a situation where he has the least amount of pressure on him, and that's not true.
Well, he'd have honestly, there's no expectation in Toronto.
There's never no expectation in Toronto.
No, but let me say this. I'm just saying, in Toronto, they've had players that there's a lot of expectation for, but they've been sort of insulated by that organization. They're very good at protecting their players, and I mean, he's a ways away from being a 4th overall pick. Remember, he was picked. Russ, that was the Line A draft, but he was 4th after Matthews, Line A, and Dubois, and hasn't had any success. I don't think it would be looked upon as a second chance. So I wouldn't think that if he went to Toronto, there'd be all this pressure for, he's got to replace this guy or replace that guy.
I think Toronto's swell and all, but I just think if Puljujarvi goes there and he goes 6-7 games without scoring, people are going to start writing about it.
Yeah, it's going to be a mess.
I think
he still is a, because the Maple Leaf fans are smart enough to know that this guy was what he was, and it wasn't that long ago that he was what he was. And the feeling is, he needs to get to a place like Columbus, like something like that, where, Columbus, maybe Washington. The only reason Washington is he can come in there and there's enough of a foreign element on that team, that could help him. I think he needs to be
he'd have a buddy in Kapanen who he won a World Junior with, and there's a number.
And that will help. That'll definitely help because he doesn't have anything like that right now. But they need to get. He's been working really hard. Obviously, this injury was a problem. He still has skill, no question about it. He's not a lost cause. he's worth more than what you're putting on there. He still has value too as well. So there's
right, and the thing is, I think that the Oilers perceive Brown as having value as a potential line mate for McDavid.
No, Brown is really good. Brown is a really tough player to throw into that trade for Toronto. I think that's
I don't believe me. I don't think Mike Babcock wants Connor Brown traded. He relies on him. He's a versatile player, but his numbers are down and his salary is over $2 million. So that's probably what makes them trade him.
He's kind of a bargain, though, for his price. Isn't he kind of a bargain? I mean, he's kind of
he's $2.1 million.
I think that's a bargain for Brown.
Scoring 20 goals, but yeah, the problem is that they need that cap space if they sign Marner for 10 or 11 million. So that's
$100,000 a goal. You're cheap. All right, that's just the way those scores work when you think about it. Like it's not like that would be like a $5 million 50 goal scorer. Like it's like that's definitely so for $22 million 20 goal scorer, that's cheap.
Now, can I just say that the biggest non-story here was what Larry Brooks reported about Wayne? Who actually put Wayne Simmons and the Rangers together? I mean, that was seriously. I mean,
Well, what's funny is the team that actually is interested in Simmons that I've heard is the Islanders.
I can see that, sure.
And because they'll have boatloads of cap space when Anders Lee signs someplace else.
He's also killed the Islanders. Like the Islanders, like when the Islanders think of Simmons, they think of him like, oh man, Simmons is going to score 2 goals a game. Like he really has destroyed the Islanders, and I think therefore they see him as a much more dangerous player than.
Let's go around the panel here. It's like, does anybody think Wayne Simmons is getting a 4-year deal in free agency? Because I don't.
No, he's not getting a 4-year deal. But he's going to get a deal. Like people are writing him off way too early.
Maximum at 3. If it's at 3 years, that it's got to be very low.
What? Yeah. Watch him sign a discount with someone like the Blackhawks or whatever, and be the body who could grind a little bit. They see what St. Louis did. They know the Central's loading up. Simmons is a perfect guy to come into the Central for a smart team. Be a depth guy and play a physical game and not torch you on the back end.
I'm telling you, and help your power play.
I don't think he's going to be open to a 1-year deal, maybe a 2 at the absolute least.
Somebody's going to probably get him in the 2 to 3 year range. It's going to be in that.
If his salary demand is reasonable and it's a 1 or 2 year deal, I think he might go home. I think Toronto would be an attractive thing because he's from the Toronto area.
But I think he doesn't fit with that team at all, though. I mean, like as far as the style of that team goes, like that's the thing about that.
He absolutely fits because they don't have players like him.
No, but he can't skate with them. That Toronto's way too fast.
With him, but he can stand in front of the net. He could be the power play guy. He could
have the same idea. The only thing is, Mike Nashville had the exact same idea.
Yeah, exactly.
And he struged.
He did
because the Predators didn't take the time. The Predators thought we'll put Simmons on the power play and he'll just be better. But when for Simmons to work on the power play, the whole power play has to be focused around him. You don't set it up like Simmons is just going to go on your power play.
Right.
Like you put Simmons in front of the net.
That's why I think Chicago could be ideal for him because of who they have there.
Of Wayne Simmons right now probably outstrips the reality of Wayne Simmons at this point.
Yeah,
you have to be the right spot, the right deal, and the right team. And I think Pete's on here. I think Chicago, the type of pace of play that they go at, Chicago actually does make a lot of sense.
Are you putting Simmons with Taves or Simmons with DeBrincat?
You probably have him on a third. You probably may have him on with Strome, someone who isn't the fastest skater but can play at the same pace of play. And I'm telling you, watching him with Nashville, watching him in the games at Nashville last year, he lagged far behind the play.
Yeah. But you put him in front of the net with Patrick Kane carrying the puck around on the power play and stuff, and watch out.
That's the story. Yep.
Yeah, no, he's great at picking off.
And probably a more methodical center as well. At least 2 of the line mates have to have moderate pace. Yeah. So then they can have that proper level. They can have the proper levels of play, and they plant out in front or get themselves by the circle.
Yep. I see Simmons as a 2-year contract, and I see him playing 1 year with that team, and then I see him playing next year with Seattle. Like I see him being the kind of guy who would be unprotected, but would be a good fit.
Now, what I'm surprised at is that you have one guy who was widely rumored to be the first buyout the buyout season who hasn't been bought out yet, and that's Scott Darling. And Patrick. Now the window is until June the 30th, so they still have a few days. And the Marlowe situation, that whole thing was pointed at Marlowe being bought out by Carolina, and then him signing with San Jose on July 1. But this sort of kabuki theater that Don Waddell was going to talk to Marlowe and see if he could sell him on Carolina, which is hilarious. I mean, I'm surprised that they haven't done it yet, and what they're waiting for.
Yeah, I think with Marlowe, I think they know what's going to happen, and it's just a matter of they have other things they have to deal with now, and it's not.
Yeah, we got to see how the market, where their situation's going to be, what type of deal that Marlowe's going to receive once the market is set on UFAs. So I'm anticipating it's going to be after. It could very well be after July 1 when Marlowe.
Well, it can't be. The window closes on June 30th. The only way you could buy out after that is if you go to arbitration on one player, then a second buyout window.
Then they talk to him, they do this, and then they buy him out on the last day.
Yeah, I think something like that. I mean, I also think the Darling situation was a definite buyout before the other two goalies basically said they were leaving. I think that at that point they had to sit back and say, okay, they had to reevaluate for a little bit.
Well, I think somebody like Florida is going to wait till the last minute and hope they can sucker somebody into taking Reimer for 3 years at half of his salary, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I think he's going to get bought out, and I'm still curious about what's going to happen with Luongo with the Bobrovsky situation and how that fits in the mix.
I had given some thought about same thing. I had given some thought about Reimer and Philly briefly in terms of retention deal and things of that sort. But obviously Philadelphia felt that it didn't.
I thought that would have been a good way to go for them. I actually thought that was a good way for them to go. I did.
1.7 would have been cheaper than 2 but it'd be 3 years. That's the problem.
But again, you have to account for a guy who already understands who's been there.
Exactly.
2 years.
Yeah.
In a locker room that is hazy at best, Elliott as at least something that's continuing forward for them. That's another one of my thoughts on this. That that you have to understand that room has now lost Gudas, Simmons, and it's like they have moving forward. You've got a lot in you. Like Nolan Patrick's not ready to be like the guy yet in that locker room. So, Claude Giroux is always going to be like in his own little clique world with Voracek and other people like that. And he's going to lead on the ice, but he's not going to be the guy. I think Elliott, like at least is like sort of like a fatherly guy to a lot of players in that team. And is like one of those guys that they all trust. And
okay, my last thought on that, Ek.
Yeah.
So let's say Carter Hart's got a little bit of a nick, and Elliott's hurt as usual. Who's the next man up?
That's a
probably Alex Lyon.
Yeah, probably Alex Lyon. Yeah,
you're going to see Alex Lyon.
Lyon's, I think he's under RF. I think because he's currently under RFA, I believe at the moment. We check him on cap.
So we'll see Alex Lyon this year.
Yeah, Lyon is actually hold on. Actually, Lyon has one more. So no, he's still under contract. One more year to UFA.
Right.
So he's there. He would be next man up, and then you're getting into
Felix Sandstrom.
Then you're getting into Felix Sandstrom and Ustimenko probably starts in Reading, I'm assuming.
And then I come into play after that.
Right. Well,
you would have Bob Froze.
Yeah,
I'm the 7th goalie in line.
They never got to you.
But last year they got to 8, so who knows? Maybe I got a shot. Yeah,
maybe this year. I think they're trying to cut down on 8 this year.
I think they will.
You'd hope.
I think they will. The Canadians and Duchesne are the last thing we'll say before we get out of here. The Canadians are meeting with Matt Duchesne, is being reported. I've been talking about this for a bit now. That I think that this is the Canadians. My source in Montreal says this is their target. And I do think it makes sense. The question is, Matt Duchesne. I'm also starting to hear that Matt Duchesne will give a last call back to Columbus. So it's possible that he goes to Montreal, gets an offer, contract offer, comes back to Columbus and says, this is what the offer is. There's less taxes here, less pressure. Can I stay in Columbus? That could happen. I could see that happening. I see it playing out.
Or Nashville or a few other places.
Yeah, Nashville again. I would really be shocked if Duchesne ended up in Nashville, just from stuff I've heard. But it's possible. Right. It is possible for sure. So I think the thing to watch now is funny. I mean, we've had of course, the Flyers make a trade every time we have a show, but today's the signing.
Heck, I parachuted in on this one. So
I'm so impressed, Ant. I can't even tell you. Thank you so much for doing that.
For timing.
Out of nowhere, bam. we're hearing Mike says we got breaking news, and then there you are.
Wojnarowski, something dropping in on ESPN here with hey, I got
That's awesome. I love it. That's amazing. All right, guys. And remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.